Hello, everybody. Hope you all are doing good out there today. We've got a knife to look at here, and it's not a case. So, a while back, I had went to a pawn shop, and I was inside looking at all the knives they had. They had a lot of interesting knives. Um, they have they're a new case dealer, so they've got a lot of new knives, but they also have some used knives. They've got some, cheaper Chinese-made knives like Rough Riders and stuff that are used, but they also have some newer knives that are pretty nice. Anyways, I was looking through everything they had, and I've dealt with the guy a few times before. Well, we were talking about this, that, and the other, and he said, "Oh, I got a lot of knives in my pocket that I just put in my pockets this morning." And so he started reaching in his pockets and pulling out different knives, and most of them were really nice, expensive knives. And then he pulled out the one we're about to look at today. Showed it to me. Now he didn't have the box with it, but he showed it to me. He said, "I just got these in from the guy I get my knives from, brand new. They're a Smoky Mountain Knife Works exclusive, and I just threw one in my pocket this morning." You can see that he said the bolsters are already tarnishing a little bit from being in my pocket today. And he handed it to me, and I looked at it. And I looked the knife over real quick. And while I was looking it over, just seeing the condition of it, because I had looked at these before on the internet and thought about getting one, but I had never found one for the price I was willing to pay, because I very, very rarely pay regular prices for a knife. I'm all the time on the bargain hunt. So I'm looking at this knife, and then he looks at me and he gives me a quote price-wise. The knife's brand new. Gives me a quote, and it was $20 less than what they run brand new on Smoky Mountain Knife Works. And I thought, wow, that's a good buy, because of course he was meaning without tax, being a pawn shop. So that really gives you're going to come out like $23, $24 cheaper for the brand new same knife than you would getting it over the internet. And I looked at it, I thought, well, that's a good deal. So I went ahead and paid him for it. And he said, "Stop back in soon and I'll give you the box." And so I went back. I was down a few days later in that town with some relatives. And so swung by there, and sure enough, he'd brought the box in, gave me the box. And so that is the background to this knife. So now let's take a look at the knife itself. As y'all know, I tend to focus on case knives. Case knives and Leathermans. They're my two favorites, and that's for sure, and there ain't no way around that. I just like them the best. As you can see, this is a Queen. This is the first Queen U.S.A. knife I've ever picked up. Now, I did get an old slimline Queen a long time ago from a local pawn shop, but it was one of the older knives, probably 30, 40 years old, and I gave that to a friend of mine who likes Queens. But this is one of the newer line models after Smoky Mountain Knife Works bought Queen, and after they began to be produced in America again. So let's take a look at this. First thing I'll say, the packaging is a little over the top. What I mean by that is I like it. It's nice, but it's not necessary. The packaging, in my opinion, on a knife isn't a big deal. I prefer to have the knife and have the knife cheaper. That's the thing that's so great about cases, boxes. They're so stackable. But this is a very nice box. If you're looking to use this box as a presentation, you have to give the packaging an A+. You got your sleeve, and then you've got your nice tin can here. Now, once you get in your tin can, now I don't know exactly how these are packed when it comes brand new, because like I said, when I got the knife, it wasn't in the box, but I took a guess at it. But you're going to have this little padded tin right here. You got foam in here and in the top. You're going to have these instructions. Y'all can pause it and read these instructions if you want to. But I do find it interesting that it says there, Queen Knives USA bestows a royal warranty to each, quote, original purchaser of its knives. Now, I don't know if they would... Let me go catch those instructions. They've blown away. Now, I don't know if they would warranty it beyond that. I would hope they would. I know that Case does, but I don't know if they would or not. But nevertheless, you got this like microfiber. I think it's like microfiber cloth pouch. Here we got our wrapping paper. Look at that Queen logo. It's a nice looking logo. I like it. And here's our knife right here. As you can see, this is a Barlow. Now this is a single-bladed Barlow. It's the 4-inch Barlow. 4 inches from top to bottom with the knife closed. You got a single back spring there. And this also has the sheep's foot style blades. Now, I believe these are made by Bear & Son for Queen. And the reason I say that is because Bear & Son come out with a Barlow that looks basically identical. And then Queen showed up with all these knives that look just like, or almost identical, I better say, to the Bear & Son knives. So I'm pretty sure Bear & Son is making this for Queen. But to talk about the knife itself, you got these really nice looking nickel silver bolsters. I've got these highly polished there. Look good. You got these green bone handles, and I've always liked green bone. This looks very similar to Case's Kentucky Bluegrass and to the Bermuda green they used to use, the pocket worn. Nice looking bone. I like the green color. I love the green shield. It's very unique, the circular shield. It's placed right in the perfect place on the knife handle. At least I think so. You got your brass pins going through the handle holding it on. How would you all describe that particular jigging? I don't know what you would call this jigging. I've never seen this kind of jigging on a knife before. It's very unique. I like it, but it's very unique. It almost looks like sprinkles. Like if you took, colored sprinkles you get, like to put on a cake, and you just sprinkle them over something. It almost looks like sprinkles laying through the handle. That's the best way I know how to describe it. I like it. It gives a good amount of grip. Got the same thing on the other side. Now, one thing I will say is, I know that some of the Bear & Son Barlows do not have brass liners. I don't know if they all do or not. Y'all that know, comment down below. If you have one of these Bear & Son 4-inch Barlows, does it have brass liners? I'm figuring that they're doing that for Queen as more of a more premium or upgraded feature. But yeah, it's got these nice brass liners. Now, somebody had commented in the comments the other day asking about gaps, how I feel about that, and the short answer is if it's not affecting the structural integrity of the knife, gaps don't bother me a bit. But I know some people are a little more particular in that area, and I understand that. Although I think a lot of times collectors take stuff to excessive points. But if you're collecting it to make money on it someday, well, that's a different story than somebody like me who's collecting it just to carry it and enjoy it and use it. Maybe trade it someday, or maybe keep it. As for blade centering, this has a classic thing I've seen with single blade knives, where that the blade wiggles. See that? It'll stay where you push it. I've seen this on some Case mini copper locks, and there's not really a whole lot you can do about that. But I don't believe this knife is really going to get any blade rub because so little of the tip of this blade is actually setting down in the handle. So I don't think you're going to have to worry about blade rub with that. But as for the blade itself, as you can see, there is absolutely zero wiggle. It's tight as it can be. It's great. Just like it's supposed to be. Let me change the camera here. We also need to note that this knife has a very nice half stop. The half stop on this knife is super crisp. It's got strong enough spring, but not too strong. I'd say the spring is absolutely perfect. Snaps into place good and feels nice. The other thing I want to note is the patina. I figured this was a stainless steel knife. I just kind of assumed it would be stainless steel. When I was sharpening it, though, it did not feel like stainless. Y'all know what I mean. Some stainlesses sharpen different from carbon steels. And so I thought the only way I'm going to figure it out is to use it. So I made some supper with it, cutting up some potatoes, carrots, onions, stuff like that, some sausage, and it patinaed. So this is a carbon steel blade. Although you're not going to find anywhere on the knife itself that it's a carbon steel blade, it is carbon steel. Now, I have used it quite a bit, and it's not taken on a patina near as much as Case does with their new CS or their older CV, but that patina may build up a little more with time. So that is kind of interesting, and I'm happy this is a carbon steel knife because it's rare to see a carbon steel knife with a green bone handle. You'll also notice that there is hardly any marking on the blade at all. The only thing on the whole blade is the Q there for Queen and U.S.A. There is no other marking. There's no stainless steel. There's no carbon steel. There's no pattern number, no date code, nothing like that. As for the blade shape itself, you'll notice it has this long nail pull. And also it has this swedging on top of the blade. Makes it look pretty cool. The blade is not totally flat all the way across. It has a slight curvature to it on the edge itself. Now some people would refer to this blade as a sheep's foot blade, and it probably is, but it looks very similar to a coping blade. You can see the blade stock is pretty thick on this knife, which can be good and can be bad. It's kind of a give and take. Now, for a few other things to consider about this knife. First thing would be build quality. The build quality on this knife is as good as Case. It is not as well finished as Case, but that's not bad. For instance, you have certain sharp corners, like this corner here. You can see a little point on it. Same thing here. Same thing on the top of the bolsters. That's not bad, but you wouldn't see that on a Case. But that's not necessarily a bad thing. It's just the way it is with this particular knife. Now let's talk about some downsides to this knife itself. A few things. None of these are major, but I did notice them. The first thing is the blade shape is not a great blade shape for everyday use, in my opinion. Now, if you're doing a lot of things like cutting boxes, that blade shape might be perfect for you. But what I've noticed from my personal use is because the blade stock is so thick, if you're doing any kind of like vegetables, cutting up any kind of vegetables or anything like that, or even whittling or something like that, like sharpening a pencil, you're going to notice that it does not slice very well. Now, a Sodbuster Jr., a Case Peanut, a Case Trapper, a Mini Trapper, all of those slice a whole lot smoother than this knife. If you're not doing a lot of food prep, it's not a problem. That's not to say anything bad about the knife. It's just to note the blade itself has that unique characteristic. The other thing that needs to be noted is going to be the location of the nail nick. It's very far back toward the pivot, which means it's going to make it harder to open. You can do that by compare something like on a Case Mini Trapper, if you have one. Compare the clip blade, how easy or hard it is to open, to the spade blade. And the difference in that is the spade blade has the tip as far away from the hinge as possible, where the clip blade has it very close, and so it's harder to open. This one has a pretty good and strong spring on it, and the nail nick being mostly toward the hinge is going to make it a little harder to open. But the blade rises up high enough that you can pinch this knife open, and I would assume that most people are going to pinch this knife open, and pinching this particular knife open is a much better way to open and to close this particular knife. At least in my opinion, that is absolutely the way to go with this knife. Pinch it open. Now, one thing I will say is the kick could be lowered on this knife to make it fit the pocket better. You could lower the kick like that, where you could still get to the nail nick, but then you wouldn't be able to pinch it open. So that right there is kind of a give or take. The last two negatives I'll say about this knife are kind of odd. First thing is, I've tried sharpening this knife, and I can get it sharp, but I can't get it razor sharp. I don't know why. I've done a lot of sharpening, and all my other knives I've got super sharp. I could not get this steel to come around as sharp as I want it to. It's sharp enough. It'll shave, but just barely. And I've sharpened it a whole lot. I can't get it where I want it. So I don't like the steel in it as well. I may figure out a trick to sharpening it later, but carbon steel is usually not anywhere near this hard to sharpen. The next thing I want to note about this is there's a weird quirk with the back spring in this, in that some knives are canted forward slightly. Some knives come straight out. This one, the blade actually cants backwards toward the handle. So if you're looking at it in a straight line like this, the blade on this knife is actually like this. It's bowing back toward the back spring, which is kind of odd. In my experience, it is very common for a classic slip joint to have a blade that angles down. The Mini Trapper is an example of that. You can't see it as much on the Warncliffe version. The Spay blade version is much more extreme in that regard, in that the blade really angles down on it. But there is a little bit of cant, where the blade is canted down toward the, I don't know what you'd say. It cants down toward the way the knife closes rather than back toward the back spring itself. The Peanut is one of the clearest examples of this. You can see just how much cant there is on that blade. Well, this Baron Son, or this Queen, is canting the exact opposite way. It's more like the way the Peanut would be like this. It's not as extreme, but it is to a degree. Now, all they'd have to do to fix that is put just a little bit longer back spring in there. Now, I'm curious, is y'all's like that, or is that just a quirk of this knife? Now, it don't really hurt this knife, but I thought it surely was worth mentioning, just because I haven't seen that very often in a knife. And as this knife is used, I'm scared that might become more extreme with wear, but we'll just have to wait and see. Also, sorry about any wind noise. The wind started blowing up here all of a sudden. I also want to note that this knife is under 3 ounces. It feels heavier than it is. I was really shocked. It's I don't remember what it was. It was like 2 point, it was, I think, just a little bit more than 2.5 ounces the way I remember it. Like 2.60 or something. I'd have to weigh it again. But it feels heavier than that. You know, some knives feel heavier than others. But let me compare this to some other popular knives while I'm at it. Here is the knife besides a case, full-size 54 pattern Trapper. Here he is besides a 37 pattern Sodbuster Jr. Here it is besides an 18 pattern medium Stockman. Here it is besides the 07 medium Trapper. And here it is besides the 20 pattern Peanut. So, when it's all said and done, should you buy this knife? Well, that's up to you. If you want a Queen, this is a great knife. I like the single blade. I like the Barlow shape. It's different from anything I have from Case. It's a very unique knife. Now, the one thing I would say is, if this knife was like the Baron Son, is around $40, absolutely excellent. But once you start getting into this one, you know, since it's branded Queen, if you had bought it new from Smoky Mountain Knife Works, you're looking at $60 plus tax on that. So you're going to be like $64 or something. That's getting a little expensive, in my opinion. It's a good knife, but there's a lot of knives that I would buy before it. And to be honest, if I had $64 to spend, what I would buy instead of this would be this right here, the Leatherman Bond. Now, I'm kidding a little bit here. These are totally different. One's a traditional pocket knife with carbon steel. The other's a multi-tool with stainless steel. There's no real comparison. But I'm being serious, though, in the respect that these are both 4 inches. They both take up about the same real estate in the pocket. The Bond is heavier. The Bond is about twice as heavy as the Queen. But no, they're the same price. The Bond, like $59, comes with a sheath, 25-year warranty on it. This is $60, comes with that 10, and it says it has a customer warranty on it. So, y'all, comment down below. What do you think? I like the Bond so much, and when I think about the price and what you're getting, and the size is really what made me think about it. I like the Bond so much, and the only thing is you're getting a lot more tools on the Bond, but your blade is not going to be as big. You're getting a much larger blade. Well, maybe not a much larger blade, but you're getting a little bit of a larger blade on the Queen. So that's the big benefit of that. Both of these are slip joints, by the way. I absolutely love the file on the Bond. You got your little lanyard loop right there. You got your flat blade, your big flat blade, and your awl right there. You got your can opener, your Phillips, your knife blade, wire stripper. Wonderful pair of pliers. Well, I don't know how this review turned into a review of the Leatherman Bond, but sorry about that. So when it's all said and done, what do you all think of these single blade Barlows? Whether you have the Baron Son version or the Queen version, or if you got any of the other Queen knives, let me know what you think. I'm especially curious about the blade steel and your experiences. You have a good day, thanks for watching, and keep your knives sharp.